Good afternoon and welcome to everybody joining us today. Today I'm just going to give a short introductory webinar on how to apply for a firearm license. I'm going to run through the process very quickly. It's not going to take very long. As I said, it's just going to be an introductory webinar. And I will be going into further details in future webinars regarding all the different requirements of getting a firearm license and the different types of firearm licenses that a person can apply for. So the firearm licensing process in South Africa is it's basically a three-step process. Your first step that you have to make sure that you do is that you have to undergo proficiency training through an accredited training provider. Training providers has to be accredited through the Professional Firearms Trainers Council, and they have to be registered and accredited through the council. A list of training providers can be obtained from the PFTC website, which is simply pftc.co.za. And there is a link on the website where you can get a list of all the trainers throughout the entire country and all the accredited trainers in your specific area. So then, firstly, you then have to find a trainer close to you, arrange an appointment to go and do your training, which consists of open book test, a closed book test, and a practical shoot. So the training also, it consists of different modules. There are 5 different modules. One module is compulsory. Everybody has to do that, and that is knowledge of the law. It's basically a knowledge of the Firearms Control Act, which governs all firearms license applications and the whole process. And you have to be able to demonstrate that you are familiar with this law. Also, the trainer that you register with to do your training will also provide you with all the necessary study material that you can go through beforehand in order to prepare for the test. But the test is not very difficult. It's fairly basic and straightforward. Then the other modules would depend on which type of firearm you are interested in acquiring. And it is basically broken down into 4 different types of firearms. And for each different type of firearm, you have to have the specific proficiency training. So those 4 modules is handle and use of a handgun, handle and use of manually operated rifles, handle and use of shotgun, and handle and use of self-loading rifle. So depending on your circumstances, you would then choose which of those 4 modules you would want to do. If you are simply interested in getting a handgun for self-protection, for self-defense, you would do the handle and use of handgun. If you're a hunter, you would do handle and use of manually operated rifle. And then if you are a sport shooter and you want to take part in specific disciplines with semi-automatic rifles, then you would have to do that specific module. So you can do one or more of those modules at the same time. At most trainers, they would be willing to offer a person a discount if you do all 5 of the modules at the same time. and most of the time they would charge you for 4 modules, and you'd only and you'd be able to do the 5th module for free. But each trainer obviously has their own structure and their own discount structure that they offer. The cost of this training also differ from one trainer to the next, but you can budget on spending approximately 1,000 rands per module for your training. Now, once you have completed the training provider will register your results with the PFTC, with Professional Firearms Training Council, and he will issue a certificate of results and a statement of results and a certificate that you attended and passed the training. Most of the time you'd receive that certificate within a week or less than a week after you've completed the training. Once you have the certificates, you can go on to the next step of the process, which would be to then actually apply for your competency certificates from the South African Police Service. And there you would need to go to your nearest police station in the area where you live. You don't have an option of going to another police station. It has to be, you have to do your application at the police station closest to where you stay. When you can get the necessary application documents from the police station, from the designated firearms officer, or you can download it from the SAPS website, or if you do your competency application through us, we will get all the necessary application forms. We will supply all the necessary application forms to you. Together with your application, once that's been properly completed, you need to submit some supporting documents. The supporting documents in the case of competency would be a certified copy of your ID, or 2 certified copies of your ID, copies of your training certificate, as well as the statement of results which you've received from the trainer where you underwent proficiency training. You would also have to submit character references from three people. One should be a family member, one a colleague or a friend, and then a third person, preferably. These references should also live in the same police area where you reside, or close to that police area. When submitting the application, the designated firearms officer would also want to do an in-person interview with at least 2 of your references. This sometimes differ from police station to police station. Some DFOs, or designated firearms officers, will not require you to bring in your references, but most of them will want to see your references in person. And usually they would also want to see your references at the same time. So they usually do the interview with both references on the same day. They do not do the interview with one witness on one day and then on another day with another witness. So when applying for your competency, you need to make arrangements with your references that they are available, and usually also you would need to contact your designated firearms officer beforehand so that you can arrange a time and an appointment when you can go and see the DFO. Again, this differs from one DFO to the next, one police station to the next. Some do not require you to make an appointment, but it is good practice to make the appointment or to at the very least contact the designated firearms officer beforehand and make sure from him, does he want you to make an appointment? Does he want you to bring in your references so that you can have everything ready, so it's not necessary for you to go back on a different day. Once the DFO has gone through your documents, through your application and your supporting documents, and he's done the interviews with the references, that application of yours will then be captured on the police system, and you will receive an SMS informing you that the application has been captured and it is receiving attention. In most instances, you will get that notification within a day or two after you've lodged your application. From there, it takes it can then take up to 3 or 4 months for the Central Firearms Registry to consider your application. They will, and then once they've considered your application, they will also let you know whether or not it has been approved. Also, another point, when handing in your application for the competency, the designated firearms officer will take 2 sets of fingerprints from you, and they will use those fingerprints to do a criminal record check. And it is important when applying that you have to disclose any criminal record that you have. There are certain offences that, in terms of a Firearms Control Act, would disqualify you from owning a firearm or from even applying for a competency to own a firearm. But you must disclose all of your any criminal record that you have, even if it is completely unrelated. Because competencies do get declined because people withheld information, whether they've done that intentionally or unintentionally. Most of the time it would be unintentional, because someone would not think that disclosing a criminal record which he has for a traffic offence would be relevant to the competency application, because it is not a disqualification in the Act, but it is a requirement that you must disclose all criminal records or criminal convictions that you have against your name. And on the application form, there is space for you to indicate, yes, I do have a criminal record, or no, I have no criminal convictions on my name. So once everything is submitted, as I said, it can take up to 3 or 4 months for the CFR, to the Central Firearms Registry, to then consider that application, and then you will receive a notification whether it's been successful or not. If it has been successful, you will be you will then have an opportunity. They will also then inform you when you would be able to go and pick up your competency card. There has been different systems in the past. Initially, they issued a card on a credit card size plastic card, a laminated card. Then they changed over where they issued a printout. Recently, they moved again away from the printout to issuing a competency card. When it was on the printout system, once you received your notification that your competency has been approved, you could simply go to your nearest police station. They would print it out, and you could print out the certificate, and you could move on to the next step of the process. Now they've moved back to the card. A lot of DFOs won't do a printout for you. You will have to wait for for the card to be printed. Currently, the cards are printed at the government printing works, and once again, there's not a set time limit within which the card will be printed. You probably look at minimum 2 weeks for the card to be printed, and then another week for the DFO to pick it up and have it at ready for you to pick it up from your police station. But it can also take longer. I am aware of instances where people have been waiting 6 weeks, 2 months, or sometimes even 3 months for their competency card. Also, it is good practice to follow up with your DFO every once in a while, maybe at least once a week, to check with them whether the card is available, whether they have picked up the card yet, because not all DFOs will have the capacity to contact all the applicants. And there it also depends from one police station to the next. Some DFOs are very diligent in contacting applicants and informing them that the card is there. Other police stations, they're sitting with shoeboxes full of cards that is ready for collection. So my suggestion is, once you get the message that your that your competency has been approved, follow up with DFO every week or so. If for some reason the competency gets denied, we can then also assist with, depending on the reason of why it was denied, we can assist further with lodging an appeal, or in extreme cases, even taking matter on, or once the appeal is also unsuccessful, there is the option of taking it on judicial review, which unfortunately is also another lengthy and costly process. But assuming that your competency has been granted and you have picked up your competency card, you can then move on to the final step of the process, and that is the application for the license itself. How that works is you would have to purchase the firearm first. The firearm that you intend to license, you would have to purchase it first. You can purchase it at any stage. You don't have to wait for the competency card to be issued. But obviously, because the competency card can take a long time, you also don't want to purchase the firearm too far in advance, because once you've purchased it, while you've been waiting for the licensing process to follow its course, the firearm will be kept at the dealer where you purchased it. And some dealers will charge you storage fees, which is a monthly storage fee. Some dealers would give you a time period. For instance, they would say, okay, the first year you do not pay a storage fee, but after that, if you haven't collected your firearm within a year, then they start charging you storage fees. And you can only collect the firearm once the license has been granted. But to get back to the license application process, you would then, once you've collected your competency card, you can then start the process of applying for the license. Again, you can get the application form from your DFO, from the SAPS website, or if you're doing the process through us, we will supply you with the necessary application forms. Part of the application form is the serial number of a specific firearm has to be filled in on that application form. And that is why you have to purchase the firearm first, because you cannot submit an application for a license without the serial number. And that you will get from the dealer. And the dealer will actually also, they will give you, when you purchase, after you've made your purchase, the dealer will give you the application form with all the dealers' particulars already filled in, and with the dealer signature, or the responsible person from the dealer would sign it to say that they are the current legal holders of that firearm, and attached to that application form, they would also give a dealer stock return showing that that firearm is on the dealer stock, which also has to be handed in with your application. Together with the application, you will also need to do a motivation as to why you require the firearm, because our firearms legislation, the Firearms Control Act, you have to show a need for the firearm, whether that be for self-defense, sporting purposes, hunting purposes, whether it's for business use. You have to supply a motivation stating this is why I need it. If it's for self-defense, for instance, you would need to show that that there is a need for self-defense firearms. You would do that by way of attaching crime statistics and articles from newspapers relating to crime in your area. You would also have to show that the firearm is suitable for the purpose that you want to use it for. We specialize in drawing up those motivations. We will consult with you and assist you where you are unsure, and get all the particulars. We will draw it up in a motivation. We will attach all the supporting documents. As I said, for self-defense, one of the supporting documents would be crime statistics, which can be drawn from the internet or can be obtained from your closest police station. For sporting, if you are licensing for sporting use, for instance, you would have to show that there is a sporting discipline where that particular firearm can be used. And when applying for the license, on the application form, you also have to indicate under which section of the Act you want to license the firearm. Each section has its own purpose. Some of those sections is, for instance, Section 13, which is self-defense. Then you get Section 14, which is restricted firearm for self-defense. What that basically is under Section 13, you're only allowed either a handgun or a shotgun, and the shotgun can only be a pump action shotgun. A restricted firearm under Section 14 is a semi-automatic rifle or a semi-automatic shotgun, for instance. And those are firearms that is not usually allowed for self-defense, so you'd have to show a special need that an ordinary handgun would not be sufficient for the needs of self-defense. So each section also has its own requirements that has to be followed. If we carry on, Section 15 of the Act is for occasional hunting. You can have a license, a maximum of 4 firearms under Section 15, or if you already have 1 firearm under Section 13, you can license a further 3 firearms under Section 15. Then there is Section 16, which is dedicated hunting or sports shooting. With its own requirements, you have to be a member of a sports shooting club, for instance. Section 16A, which is for professional hunting, and then so Section 13, 15, and 16 are the ones most often used. You also get Section 17, which is a private collector, Section 18, which is an ammunition collector, Section 19, public collectors, and then Section 20 is the one that security companies would use. It's for business purposes. Under Section 17 for collectors, there's also very harsh requirements they have to comply with. They have to belong to a collectors club, and they may only collect firearms within a specific theme that they've chosen beforehand, and that has to be approved by their club. That, in short, is the requirements or the process of applying for a firearm license. We are specialists in the area of firearms applications. We can and we will assist throughout this whole process, and we will be able to offer advice under which section to license it, how to go about getting the competency, where to get your competency. We can refer you to trainers that we've worked with, and we also then draw up your motivation once you are ready to apply for the license. For anybody that wants to review this information, there will be a replay available of this webinar, so you can listen to the replay again, and you can contact me as well for further information and for further assistance. I'll give my email address, which is paul@legallyarmed.co.za. That is PAUL at legallyarmed. That's LEGALLYARMED.co.za. Then you can email me for further information. And yeah, if there's no questions, I will then end off this this webinar here. I can also supply anyone with a short summary of what was said in this webinar, and yeah, that is the entire process. For any further information, you can feel free to contact me. Further information and assistance with the process. Thank you. Good day.